probably common knowledge to most readers by now that Nightcrawler is the son of Mystique, something that was revealed and confirmed ages ago in 1994. Now, to cut the story short, Mystique was posing as a German woman and became the wife of a very wealthy and regular human man. After giving birth to a very much not normal human mutant child in the form of a Nightcrawler, she ran away, abandoning baby Nightcrawler. It was later revealed that Kurt's odd appearance wasn't just due to Mystique being another blue mutant, but it was actually due to his real father, which was not the human man. Kurt's biological father was actually Azazel, a member of an interdimensional group of ancient demon-like mutants. But oh no, not actually. Never mind anyone who had been believing that, since it was revealed in X-Men Blue Origins issue 1 that Nightcrawler is actually the son of both Mystique, taking the form of a man, and her longtime lover, Destiny. While this is a weird retcon that a lot of people hated, it was actually the original plan of Chris Claremont, so it's actually kind of a win. If any of y'all watched X-Men 97, if you haven't, then I suggest maybe you just skip ahead to the next point in this video because we are talking about X-Men 97. Okay, so basically, episode 5. Holy hell. Basically, Cable shows up to warn everyone about a pending attack on Genosha, which happens about 10 seconds later, when an absolutely giant sentinel shows up and starts decimating everyone. Every mutant it sees. Genosha, which was celebrating its new inclusion into the UN, is absolutely decimated. This is echoing an earlier comic book storyline, so it's not like this is completely new, but this event is different in a key way. Magneto shields a bunch of mutants he previously promised to protect and seemingly gets wiped out by his Sentinel Blast. Then Rogue, in like a blind rage, attempts to take it down by herself, but is knocked out of the way by Gambit, who then goes after the thing himself. He ends up being skewered, but manages to energize the entire Sentinel, blowing it up, along with himself, saving the whole of Genosha almost single-handedly. It's awesome, but brutal. In the new golden Krakoa age of mutant kind in Marvel Comics, all mutants, good and bad, have been given a fresh start on Krakoa. Now, some people never change, but one that had seemed to have turned over a new leaf is the mutant geneticist Mr. Sinister, even finding himself on the mutant leading council. Well, who would have thought that a guy named Mr. Sinister would ever betray his allies? Mr. Sinister finds a way to give himself control over the entire mutant population using the mutant resurrection protocols to essentially brainwash and control everyone. Or almost everyone. Mr. Sinister's ways push the Marvel Universe into a dystopian timeline, one that we get to see play out over the span of 3 different eras: Year 10, Year 100, and Year 1000. But what happens within those 1000 years is even crazier, with mutant chimeras spliced together with multiple different mutant powers, a whole religion of Nightcrawler clones, and the Juggernaut who goes hurtling through space for 1000 years until being used as a bullet to wipe out Thanos. The whole story is awesome to read, but Sinister taking over the X-Men is certainly no bueno. While Sins of Sinister was cool, it took place before the legit fall of the nation of Krakoa, the fall of the House of X, and it kicked off in spectacular fashion. During this year's annual mutant celebration, the Hellfire Gala, literally on the very next page following a new X-Men team being finally announced, out of nowhere the anti-mutant organization known as Orchis attacks the gala with Nimrod coming crashing down from the thermosphere at terminal velocity. He completely obliterates Dazzler, Frenzy, Cannonball, and Prodigy, and then punches Jubilee into the ground, wiping out 5 of the 8 new X-Men before he managed to decimate Bobby Drake Iceman, another Omega level mutant. It was an absolute massacre and one of the most harrowing, shocking things I have seen in an X-Men comic in a hot minute. Now, after the attack of Nimrod, the forces of Orchis come pouring into Krakoa through the Krakoan gates, which were hacked by Dr. Stasis. These forces, backed up by Stark Tech Sentinels, start laying waste to the mutants. However, midway through this fight, Jean Grey uses her powers as one of the most powerful telepaths on the planet, essentially freezing everyone. She overrides everyone's minds and says that everyone who is an ally of the X-Men can stay, and everyone who is against the X-Men is free to go, otherwise she will destroy their minds. But in that moment, Dr. Stasis says, "It's now or never, friend," and Moira McTaggart, going by Moira X and working with Orchis, literally plunges a knife into Jean's back, taking her life on the spot. Now, a little bit before that actually happened, Dr. Stasis, a clone of Mr. Sinister, showed up and revealed to Professor X that the medicine that the X-Men had been producing for the world, which is what led Krakoa to becoming a world power, have all been tampered with, and Stasis can now control or wipe out any human who used any of the medicine produced by the X-Men. Now, in exchange for him agreeing to not do that, and following the passing of Jean Grey with Moira grabbing Charles and holding the same knife at his throat, Charles surrenders and agrees to use his powers to force the mutant population of Krakoa, some 200,000 strong, to go through teleportation gates to the X-Men's home on Arakko, aka Mars. Now, Orchis planned on having Arakko being its next target, but instead, something went horribly wrong, and those 200,000 mutants were suddenly transported to the White Hot Room, essentially the afterlife and the base of operations for the Phoenix Force. Now, with Orchis attacking the mutant population and essentially wiping out tons of mutants and the newest team of X-Men, to usher in the fall of X, the mutant population are now on the run and in hiding. We have Kitty Pryde as essentially an assassin running around wiping out Orchis soldiers and running ops. Firestar was basically placed as a double agent inside of Orchis, and many mutants have been captured by the anti-mutant group. One of the key ones being the field leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. Now, when I tell you that Orchis has done some horrible things to Cyclops, I am not joking. Keeping him locked up, Orchis have strapped Cyclops to a big old X, which is attached to sensors that will blow the entire thing up if he is removed. But on top of that, they've essentially deactivated his powers by literally stapling his eyelids shut. It's one of the most gruesome things I have ever seen. They've essentially been holding this guy hostage and interrogating him, and he has staples on his eyelids. But it's not as messed up as anything that Sabretooth does to Wolverine. Sabretooth and Wolverine have been on two sides of a feud that has been going on for a long time in Marvel Comics. During the Krakoan era, Sabretooth was essentially banished to a pit inside of Krakoa where he was essentially trapped in his own mind, unable to escape. Sabretooth actually learned how to turn this mindscape into his own personal playground, and eventually he even managed to escape and amass both power and an army of multiversal versions of himself. It seemingly all was for the purpose of tormenting Wolverine, which comes to a head in this era's volume of Wolverine during the fall of X. Now, just to give you some quick highlights of what happens here, Sabretooth is able to attack Wolverine and his team of mutants who are hiding away. He and his army of other Sabretooths decimate this team and Wolverine's entire family. He captures Quentin Quire's head in a box, he takes away Wolverine's powers and makes the guy relive his past traumas. It's just messed up, man. So basically, as part of this whole Fall of X thing, while Orchis was initially the main threat posed to the X-Men as the conflict went on, the artificial intelligence Sentinel created by Orchis, Nimrod, has shifted to become the main threat for the X-Men towards the end of the fall of the House of X. Nimrod's main goal is essentially to become a Dominion. Basically, in Marvel, a Dominion is what happens when an AI manages to learn everything there is to learn about every form of power that exists, from magic to mutants to cosmic power. And then that AI essentially becomes a god. But in that pursuit for Dominion, Nimrod becomes even more of a major threat to the X-Men. With his ability to adapt to anything the mutants throw at him, he's able to hold his own with lethal effectiveness. He's able to take on Rogue and Colossus at the same time, two incredible powerhouses. Now, while Nimrod was attempting to achieve Dominion, in issue number 4 of the event, Professor X basically betrays literally everyone and makes a backdoor deal with Nimrod. Professor X's whole goal during this era of Marvel's mutants was to create a safe haven for mutants, with Nimrod now setting his sights on grander goals than destroying all of mutantdom. Professor X tries to make a deal where the mutants will not try to interfere with Nimrod's plans as long as Nimrod promises to spare them and let them continue living on the island of Krakoa peacefully. Xavier even offers to deal with a nuclear-capable vessel being launched by the USA in return for Nimrod leaving the mutants alone. Now, while Cyclops does try to stand against Xavier, it doesn't stop the Professor from actually taking control of the mind of a soldier on that nuclear ship and blowing it to complete smithereens, while Cyclops is forced to just watch it happen. But that's all I've got. Hope you guys are all sufficiently upset now. Thank you so much for watching on Top 10 Nerd. I will catch you all on the flippy flop, but until then, be sure to stay safe and peace out, nerds.